Hello everyone, welcome to today's class. In the last class we were studying about the parts of alimentary canal. There are 6 parts of alimentary canal: the buccal cavity, oral cavity or the oral cavity, esophagus or food pipe, stomach, small intestine, large intestine and anus. In the last class we studied about a small intestine, and we studied that in small intestine complete digestion of food takes place. Also in the small intestine, absorption of food also takes place. Absorption means the digested products are passed through the walls of the small intestine into the blood vessels. That process is called absorption. Now in the first class I told you that in heterotropic nutrition there are 5 steps. The first step is ingestion, second step is digestion, third step is absorption, fourth step is assimilation, and fifth step is egestion. We have reached to the third stage, that is absorption. In the small intestine, absorption of the digested food takes place. Now assimilation takes place. What is assimilation? The absorbed food that is then taken to the organs, to the tissues and the cells by the blood, and then it is utilized for making proteins or vitamins. That process is known as assimilation. Okay, so let us study about assimilation. After absorption, the food in the small intestine, after it gets absorbed, it reaches the blood vessels. Inside the blood vessels, blood flows. So that blood takes the absorbed food. The absorbed food is then carried by the blood. Okay, carried by the blood to various organs or various tissues and cells of the body. Where it is used to make proteins, vitamins, etc. that is required by the body. This process is known as assimilation. So after absorption, assimilation takes place. Okay, this process is known as assimilation. Okay, for example, glucose is taken to the cells where it is broken down. Glucose is broken down with the help of oxygen to release carbon dioxide, water and energy. So this process is known as respiration. So यसरी ग्लुकोज चाहिँ सेल्समा लान्छ, सेल्समा पुग्छ, अनि त्यहाँबाट एज यु नो कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स गिव्स अस एनर्जी. सो कार्बोहाइड्रेट्सको डाइजेस्ट भइसकेको प्रोडक्ट इज ग्लुकोज. सो एक्चुअली ग्लुकोज गिव्स अस एनर्जी. सो व्हेन इट इज टेकन टु द सेल्स, इट इज ब्रोकन डाउन बाई अक्सिजन and then water, carbon dioxide and energy is released. यो चाहिँ assimilation को एउटा example हो. Or sometimes it is taken to tissues where proteins are produced. If the body requires protein, then proteins are produced. That is assimilation. Okay, now this is all about the small intestine, absorption and assimilation. Now let us move on to the next part of the alimentary canal. Which is the next part of the alimentary canal after small intestine? I think you have guessed it right. It is large intestine. Okay, so today let us study about large intestine. Large intestine. Now here is the picture of the digestive system, and if you can see, this portion is the large intestine. Okay, large intestine. Now whatever the food that is unabsorbed, okay, unabsorbed and undigested, it passes into the large intestine from the small intestine. Okay, एउटा कुरा याद राख्नुस्, small intestine मा complete digestion and absorption of food takes place, र undigest नभएको food अब चाहिँ जति पनि food हामीले खाएको सबै food digest हुँदैन, certain part of the food remains undigested and it also remains unabsorbed, so that food is now passed into the large intestine. Okay, so the undigested and unabsorbed food, the undigested and unabsorbed food passes into the large intestine. Okay, let me put up the diagram of the digestive system on the board so it will be easier for you to understand. Okay, now here this part is the large intestine. Now what happens in the large intestine is that if you look at large intestine and compare it with small intestine, large intestine is wider and shorter. Okay, wider and shorter than small intestine. तपाईले large intestine र small intestine को यहाँ नक्सामा compare गर्नुस् त, हेर्नुस् त, यो large intestine wider छ, फराकिलो छ, small intestine सानो narrow छ. Okay, it is साँघुरो खालके छ small intestine चाहिँ, तर large intestine अलिकति फराकिलो wider छ, plus it is shorter than small intestine, छोटो छ small intestine भन्दा. What is the length of the small intestine? In the last class we've already studied this. The length of the small intestine is 7.5 meters and the length of large intestine is 1.5 meters. So it is 1.5 meters in length. Okay, lambai चाहिँ यसको 1.5 meters. Now the small intestine makes sure, the large intestine makes sure that nothing useful is wasted. कुनै पनि काम लाग्ने चीज चाहिँ waste नहोस् भनेर चाहिँ large intestine को काम चाहिँ त्यो. Okay, so यसले के गर्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ its function is to absorb water, minerals and salts from food. Okay, so के गर्दो रहेछ large intestine ले food मा भएको water, minerals, salts is essential for the body, so these water, minerals and salts are absorbed by the large intestine. Okay, so the remaining food, after the useful substances are removed from the food, now it is no longer called food, it is called feces. Okay, after removing the useful substances, now the food becomes feces. Okay, after the removal of useful substances, what are those useful substances? Water, minerals and salts. So after the removal of useful substances, it now becomes feces, and feces means the waste product. Okay, feces भनेको चाहिँ मैला. Okay, and these semi-solid feces, semi-solid भनेको आधा solid आधा liquid. Okay, this semi-solid feces then passes into the rectum where it is stored temporarily. Okay, stored temporarily. So after absorbing all the useful substances, now it becomes feces, and that feces moves to rectum. Rectum यहाँ छ. So सबै absorb भयो. यहाँ जति food pass हुँदै जान्छ, water, mineral salts are getting absorbed, and रहेको अब चाहिँ feces बनिन्छ. सबै absorb भइसकेपछि that moves on to the rectum, where it is stored temporarily. Okay, and then that fecal matter, as I told you earlier, it is the waste material, so it cannot stay in the body for a long time. It has to be eliminated or expelled out of the body, and that is done by anus, the last part of the alimentary canal, that is the anus. Anus will now remove the fecal matter. Okay, the fecal matter is then removed or expelled out of the body through the anus, the last part of the alimentary canal, through the anus. Okay, it is expelled or removed out of the body through the anus from time to time. Time ma यो मैला चाहिँ बडीबाट एनसबाट मान्छेले बाहिर फ्याँक्छ. So when the waste materials are thrown out of the body, that process is called egestion. So this is egestion. So this is the last part of the heterotrophic nutrition. पाँचवटा थियो parts. के ingestion, which takes place in the mouth, digestion, which takes place in mouth, stomach and small intestine, absorption, which takes place in the small intestine, assimilation takes place in organs, tissues and cells, and finally egestion takes place from anus. Okay, so यस्तो पाराले चाहिँ heterotrophic nutrition अथवा हाम्रो human beings मा चाहिँ यस्तो पाराले चाहिँ food digest हुन्छ, and undigested food or waste material that is thrown out of the body. Okay, I hope you are clear with this. Now let us move on to the next subtopic, that is digestion in grass eating animals. Okay, digestion in grass eating animals. I think all of you know what are grass eating animals, right? Grass eating animals ta थाहा छ होला, जसले घाँस खान्छ. We also call them as herbivores. So let us see how digestion takes place in such grass eating animals. Grass eating animals. So the examples of grass eating animals के हो? Cows, buffaloes, goats, deer, etc. All these are grass eating animals, and they are also known as herbivores. तपाईले if you have observed these cows-हरुलाई तपाईले हेर्नुभयो, बाख्राहरुलाई हेर्नुभयो भने continuously throughout the day they are chewing continuously, है. जहिले तहिले चबाइरहेको हुन्छ नि. घाँस त हामी बिहान बेलुका मात्रै हाल्छ नि, तर किन continuously दिनभरि उनीहरुले चबाउँछ भन्दाखेरि let us see. So when we give grass to grass eating animals or such as cows, what happens is first they chew the food quickly. They chew food भन्नाले यहाँ grass, okay, उनीहरुको लागि food हो grass चाहिँ. They chew food quickly and then swallow it. Okay, first मा के गर्दै रहेछ? They will chew the food quickly and then they will swallow it. So when they swallow the food, it reaches an organ. So after swallowing the food reaches an organ called rumen. Okay, rumen na an organ that is known as rumen, called rumen. So after swallowing that food, है, छिटो मज्जाले चबाएको हुँदैन, छिटो चबाएर सटसट निलिहाल्छ. निलेपछि चाहिँ rumen मा पुग्छ त्यो food. Okay, and where it is stored, where it is stored. Store मात्रै हुँदैन, rumen मा चाहिँ the food gets partially digested. In rumen, the food gets partially भनेको अलिअलि, okay, partially gets partially digested. This partially digested food then becomes cod. Right? Partially gets partially digested and is known as cod. So अब चाहिँ यसलाई food भनिँदैन, अब चाहिँ यसलाई cod भनिन्छ. Okay, rumen मा पुगेर अब partially अलिअलि digest हुन्छ, that is known as cod. Now this cod returns back to the mouth, in small lumps. Okay, in small lumps. So यो cod चाहिँ अब rumen बाट फेरि मुखमा back आउँछ and then the animal chews it. And then the animal त्यहाँदेखि फेरि त्यो animal ले chew गर्नु थाल्छ. Okay, so यो process लाई चाहिँ rumination भन्छ. त्यो cod लाई चाहिँ rumen बाट मुखमा फेरि back ल्याएर चपाएर फेरि निल्नुलाई चाहिँ this is rumination. This process is called rumination. Okay, it's called rumination and the animals are called ruminants. So निलेको खाना फेरि ल्याएर मुखमा खानुलाई चाहिँ rumination भनिन्छ and the animals are called ruminants. So जसमा rumination हुन्छ तिनीहरुलाई चाहिँ हामी ruminants पनि भन्छ. So these cows, goats, etc. these are also known as herbivores or these are also known as ruminants. किनभने यिनीहरुकोमा rumination हुन्छ. Rumination भनेको swallow गरिसकेको food एकखेप partially digest हुन्छ rumen मा and it comes back to the mouth. Okay, that process is known as rumination. अब we are humans, right? Can we eat grass like cows, buffaloes, etc.? No, we cannot eat grass. Why? Because in grass contains a complex carbohydrate called cellulose. Okay, so grass मा चाहिँ एउटा type of carbohydrate हुन्छ. Okay, grass has complex carbohydrate. That carbohydrate is known as cellulose. A carbohydrate called cellulose. Okay, so grass मा भएको carbohydrate लाई के भन्दो रहेछ? Cellulose. हाम्रो rice मा भएको carbohydrate लाई starch भनेको जस्तो grass मा भएको carbohydrate लाई चाहिँ cellulose भनिन्छ. Now these cellulose cannot be digested by humans. Okay, किन भन्दा let me show you the diagram of a grass eating animal को stomach मा. Now if you can see यो grass mouth छ, mouth बाट this is the esophagus, you can see the small pipe. Now the food moves on to the rumen. है छिटो छिटो उले चबाउँछ, swallow गर्छ, swallow गरेपछि rumen मा जान्छ. rumen मा गएपछि rumen मा partially digest हुन्छ. यहाँ rumen मा partially digest हुन्छ and then it comes back to the mouth and then the animal chews it again. है त्यहाँदेखिको चाहिँ the food moves on to the another part of the stomach that is known as the cecum. यहाँ हेर्नु भयो नि cecum मा move गर्छ. Now your cecum चाहिँ it is present in between the small intestine. This is the small intestine. यहाँ छ small intestine and in between the large intestine. Okay, so your small intestine र यो large intestine को बीचमा चाहिँ एउटा भुँडी छ that is known as the cecum. So your cecum मा चाहिँ there are enzymes and bacteria that are present in cows and goats, etc. Okay, so your enzymes र यो bacteria ले चाहिँ that digest cellulose. So यो चाहिँ हाम्रोमा हुँदैन, त्यो bacteria, यो enzymes हाम्रोमा हुँदैन. So we cannot digest cellulose. Okay, so grass eating animals have cecum. के भन्दो रहेछ त्यसलाई? Spelling you have to remember all the spelling of the keyword चाहिँ ल. So cecum and grass eating animals have cecum which is present I think the diagram is there in your book also. तपाईले हेर्दा पनि हुन्छ. So which is present between the small and the large intestine, small and large intestine, large intestine. There are enzymes, okay, enzymes huncha, enzymes le digestion ma help garcha, enzymes and also bacteria, okay, enzymes and bacteria are present in cecum, and that enzymes and bacteria digest cellulose, okay. There are enzymes and bacteria which digest cellulose. Alright, this is how grass eating animal digest their food. First they quickly swallow it, it goes into the rumen where it is partially digested, then it is known as cud. That cud comes back to the mouth, the animal chews it, again swallows it, goes to the cecum where it is digested. Alright, now let us talk about digestion in amoeba, okay. Amoeba, alright. Okay, amoeba is a unicellular organism. Unicellular microorganism. Okay, unicellular भनेको चाहिँ एउटा मात्र सेलले बनिएको. It is made up of single cell. One cell. Single भनेको one. Okay, one cell ले बनिएको हुन्छ. Microorganism, it cannot be seen with our naked eyes. It has to be seen under a microscope, or it can be seen only under a microscope. Amoeba चाहिँ एउटा मात्र सेलले बनिएको हुन्छ, त्यही कारणले एकदमै सानो भएको कारणले हामीले आँखाले देख्न सक्दैन. ओके, यसलाई चाहिँ हामीले माइक्रोस्कोपमा मात्रै देख्न सक्छ. र amoeba कहाँ पाइन्छ भन्दा चाहिँ पानीमा बस्छ यो चाहिँ. ओके, it lives in water. It is an animal है, यो चाहिँ animal हो. यो पनि heterotrophic organism हो. So animal, यो चाहिँ ponds हरुतिर, lakes हरुतिर we find amoeba. Okay, now amoeba, let us see what is amoeba made up of. त्यो भन्दा अगाडि हामी सबै लिभिङ अर्गानिजम्सहरु केले बनिएको हुन्छ? हामी भनेको ह्युमन बीइंग्स भयो, cows, dogs, the plants that we see around us, all are living organisms. So what are living organisms made up of? Living organisms are made up of cells. Do you know what is a cell? How does a cell look like? Okay, so we all are made up of cells. So जसरी यो wall इटा यसरी इटा जोडिएर, एउटा इटा दुईटा इटा यसरी इटा जोडिएर यो wall बनिएको हुन्छ, त्यस्तै गरी हाम्रो बडी, लिभिङ अर्गानिजम्स को बडी पनि सेल यसरी सेल मिलेर चाहिँ बनिएको हुन्छ. ओके, नाउ व्हाट डज दिस सेल लुक लाइक भन्दा चाहिँ सेल चाहिँ हामीले सो माइक्रोस्कोपमा हेर्दाखेरि चाहिँ यस्तो देखिन्छ. ओके, दिस इज द डायग्राम अफ अ सेल. सेलको तीनटा पार्ट हुन्छ. यो सबसे बाहिरको पार्टलाई चाहिँ वी कॉल इट द सेल मेम्ब्रेन, or it is also known as the plasma membrane. Okay, cell membrane or plasma membrane. Then बीच को एउटा structure छ, that is known as the nucleus. अनि cell membrane र nucleus को बीचमा यो खाली जग्गामा चाहिँ पानी जस्तो fluid हुन्छ, एलोभेरा जस्तो fluid हुन्छ. That fluid is known as cytoplasm. Okay, so cell चाहिँ हाम्रो living organisms, all the living organisms are made up of cell, and a cell looks like this. It has three parts: the cell membrane or the plasma membrane, the nucleus, and the cytoplasm. Okay, so amoeba पनि unicellular organism हो. यो एउटा मात्र सेलले बनिएको हुन्छ. सो amoeba को स्ट्रक्चर हेर्यो भने पनि यस्तै हुन्छ. यसमा सेल मेम्ब्रेन और प्लाज्मा मेम्ब्रेन हुन्छ, न्यूक्लियस हुन्छ, साइटोप्लाज्म हुन्छ. प्लस amoeba को साइटोप्लाज्ममा चाहिँ there are many bubble like structures those bubble like structures are known as vacuole. Okay, vacuole हुन्छ एमिबा को साइटोप्लाज्ममा. सो यति चारटा चीजले चाहिँ एमिबा बनिएको हुन्छ. अलराइट, सो let us see how digestion takes place in amoeba. So amoeba has cell membrane, right? It has a cell membrane, a dense round nucleus, and many bubble like vacuoles. Okay, vacuoles in the your vacuoles say cytoplasm. Okay, it has many bubble like vacuoles in the cytoplasm. Okay, now one interesting feature about amoeba is that it constantly changes its shape and position. Constantly changes its shape and position. Okay, so यसले continuously आफ्नो position र shape change गरिबस्छ. So त्यसको एउटा fixed shape चाहिँ हुँदैन. Okay, now what does this bacteria what does this amoeba eat भन्दाखेरि यसले के खान्छ भन्दाखेरि चाहिँ it feeds on algae are the small plants that are found inside the pond. Okay, it feeds on algae, bacteria and other unicellular organisms. अरु जस्तै अरु unicellular organisms हुन्छ त्यो पनि उले खान्छ. Okay, now कसरी खाँदै रहेछ भन्दाखेरि so when amoeba, when it senses any food near it, उले चाहिँ आफ्नो थुप्रो यस्तो pseudopodia निकाल्छ. Okay, so when amoeba senses food near it, it gives out or it develops a pair of pseudopodia, or that is also known as false feet. Pseudo भनेको false, podia भनेको feet. Okay, so it develops pseudopodia. So यस्तो पाराले चाहिँ एमिबाले फुड उसको छेउमा आयो भने it will develop pseudopodia or false feet. So यहाँ हेर्नुस्, this is what amoeba looks like. यो चाहिँ amoeba को नक्सा यो चाहिँ है. बीचमा न्यूक्लियस छ, यो ब्लू कलर को चाहिँ साइटोप्लाज्म, बाहिरको ब्ल्याक कलर को that is the cell membrane. Okay, now so when it sees bacteria, okay, so यहाँ amoeba छ, यहाँनिर bacteria छ, bacteria चाहिँ उले खान्छ नि त है. so यहाँ bacteria छ, यहाँ bacterium लेखेको छ, एउटा छ भने चाहिँ bacterium, थुप्रो छ भने चाहिँ bacteria. so यहाँ एउटा मात्रै छ, so bacterium, उले bacterium खान्छ. so when it senses food, उले के गर्दैछ यहाँ हेर्नुस् त, यो pseudopodia हो, लामो देख्नु हुँदैछ, मुख जस्तो बनायो र उले चाहिँ के गर्दैछ, pseudopodia लाई डेभलप गर्छ. when it senses bacteria, जतापटि छ यतापटि bacteria भएको भए यतापटि नै उले pseudopodia डेभलप गर्थ्यो. अहिले bacteria यतापटि छ, so उले pseudopodia डेभलप गर्दैछ. Okay, now that pseudopodia it extends again, that pseudopodia extends pseudopodia and engulfs the food. This process is known as, so body भित्र food गयो भने त्यसलाई के भन्छ, this is ingestion. so के गर्दैछ, pseudopodia, पहिला त pseudopodia डेभलप गर्यो. ओके, पहिला त pseudopodia यसरी डेभलप गर्यो, यहाँनिर डेभलप गर्यो, त्यहाँदेखि pseudopodia अझ बढ्यो, हेर्नुस् त लामो भयो, एक्सटेन्ड हुँदैछ, अन्त यहाँनिर के भयो, एक्सटेन्ड भएर त्यो pseudopodia बर्न भयो, अनि के भयो, that food, that bacteria चाहिँ हेर्नुस् त यी भित्र पस्यो. so when it enters the body of amoeba, it enters the food vacuole. That means that food or the bacteria is trapped inside the food vacuole. Okay, so ingestion ko baad ma chai त्यो food चाहिँ कहाँ जाँदो रहेछ? Food is trapped into the food vacuole. Food vacuole चाहिँ कहाँ हुन्छ भन्नुस् त? साइटोप्लाज्म मा. यो चाहिँ बबल जस्तो, बबल भनेको तपाईले साबुन के रे उयो गर्दाखेरि साबुनबाट चाहिँ यस्तो फुलाएर हामी निकाल्छ, that is the bubble. च्युइङ गमकोमा हामी फुलाएर निकाल्छ, that is the bubble. Okay, so साइटोप्लाज्म मा हो यस्तो सानो सानो मसिनो बबल्सहरु थुप्रो छ. सो त्यो बबल्स भित्र चाहिँ फुड जान्छ. The food is then trapped into the food vacuole. Trapped into the food vacuole. Okay, food vacuole ma abo trap bhayo. Okay, now this food vacuole has digestive enzymes. Has digestive enzymes which digest the food. So pseudopodia ले के गर्यो? Ingest गर्यो. फर्स्ट मा ingestion गर्यो pseudopodia ले. सेकेन्ड मा food vacuole ले के गर्दैछ? Digestion गर्दैछ. So after digestion के आउँछ? थर्ड स्टेप मा absorption. Okay, now the digested food moves into the cytoplasm. अब food vacuole बाट digest भएको food चाहिँ cytoplasm मा जान्छ. This process is known as, this is absorption. So यहाँ absorption पनि भयो थर्ड स्टेप मा. ओके, अब absorption को बाद मा के आउँछ? Assimilation. So that absorbed food, the absorbed food is then used for growth. बढ्नुको लागि एमिबा पनि बढ्नु पर्यो. मेन्टेनेन्स को लागि आफ्नो बडीमा एनर्जी चाहिन्छ, आफ्नो बडीमा इन्जरी हुन्छ, त्यो सबैलाई मेन्टेन गर्नु पर्यो. सो मेन्टेनेन्स एन्ड मल्टिप्लिकेसन. सो एमिबामा पनि रिप्रोडक्सन हुन्छ. सो एउटा एमिबाबाट अर्को एमिबा जन्मिनु पर्यो. सो द्याट इज मल्टिप्लिकेसन. सो जति पनि फुड एब्जर्ब हुन्छ उसले यो काममा लाउँछ. अब काममा लाउनु भनेको चाहिँ के हो? एसिमिलेसन हो. सो उसले के गर्दैछ? अब यो चाहिँ एसिमिलेसन गरेको. दिस इज एसिमिलेसन. सो हेर्नुहोस् है, इन्जेक्सन पनि भयो, डाइजेसन पनि भयो, एब्जर्प्सन पनि भयो, एसिमिलेसन पनि भयो. अब लास्ट स्टेप के आउँछ? इजेक्सन. ओके, सो द अनडाइजेस्टेड फुड, जुन चाहिँ अनडाइजेस्टेड फुड छ त्यो भ्याक्युलमै छ. खाली डाइजेस्टेड फुड मात्रै साइटोप्लाज्ममा मुभ गरेको छ नि त है. सो द अनडाइजेस्टेड फुड इज expelled. It is then expelled out of the vacuole. So vacuole बाट बाहिर फ्याँक्छ र यसलाई चाहिँ के भनिन्छ? ejection. So हेर्नुस् त, though amoeba is a unicellular organism, though amoeba एउटा मात्रै सेलले बनिएको भए तापनि यसमा न्युट्रिसनको पाँचैवटा स्टेप हुन्छ. जस्तो हाम्रोमा हुन्छ एमिबामा पनि हो त्यसरी पाँचैवटा स्टेप भएर फुड डाइजेस्ट हुन्छ. सो यहाँ डायग्राममा तपाईले हेर्नुभयो भने एमिबा ब्याक्टेरिया सेन्स गर्यो. ब्याक्टेरिया सेन्स गरेपछि इट डेभलप्स स्युडोपोडिया. द्याट स्युडोपोडिया इज एक्सटेन्डिङ एन्ड देन इट इज एनगल्फिङ द फुड है. द फुड इज ट्र्याप्ड इनसाइड द फुड भ्याक्युल. सेतो तपाईले देख्नुहुँदैछ त्यो भ्याक्युल हो. त्यो भित्र चाहिँ त्यो ब्याक्टेरिया वाज द फुड. सो त्यो ब्याक्टेरिया भित्र ट्र्याप भएको छ. So after it is trapped, the food gets digested. So यहाँ हेर्नुस् त, डाइजेसन हुँदैछ. सो यहाँ भित्र डाइजेस्ट भयो भ्याक्युल भित्र. अन्त डाइजेस्ट भइसकेपछि डाइजेस्ट भएको खाना सबै यहाँ साइटोप्लाज्ममा मुभ गर्छ. त्यहाँदेखि साइटोप्लाज्ममा एब्जर्ब भएको त्यो चाहिँ, एन्ड देन द्याट एब्जर्ब फुड इज युटिलाइज फर ग्रोथ, मेन्टेनेन्स एन्ड मल्टिप्लिकेसन. अनि रहेको अनडाइजेस्टेड फुड चाहिँ हेर्नुस् त, यी भ्याक्युलबाट फेरि बाहिर एक्सपेल हुँदैछ. द्याट प्रोसेस इज नोन एज ejection. Okay, so यस्तो पाराले even in unicellular organism 5 steps of nutrition takes place. Okay, with this, we've come to the end of the chapter Nutrition in Animals.